Thank you. I'm really happy to join with this event, and I think Nariman have been connected us, University of Ferrara, and also our Gajah Mada University to have share some things, especially of our city in my case, and maybe the next two lecturer will also more specifically on site and also one of the settlement characteristic. But today's I want to showing you how our city is not as old as the city in Italy. I was in Italy for some times. I mean, 3 times or maybe 4 times. But at least our history of our city, Yogyakarta, is maybe one of the reference that you can understand as a background for the project itself. So if Nariman allow me to share my screens, so I will start my lecture on layering of our city history, especially of Yogyakarta city. So this is a kind of introduction of our city history. And maybe I will start with the first layer of our city. And the city itself is located in Java Island. And the Java Island has a Mount Merapi. If I can share with you, Italy and Indonesia, especially Yogyakarta, have as I know, the three most active volcano in the world. One is, I think, as I know, is Mount Etna in Italy, isn't it? And then the second one is in Philippines. It's called Mount Pinatubo. And the last three is actually our Merapi or Mount Merapi. That is just in the middle of Java, next to our city, Yogyakarta. And yes, the Mount Merapi actually for the Javanese culture, for Japanese is a focal point, especially for socioculture civilizations since the classical we call old Yogyakarta or Mataram era. And it's coming from the word natural and cultural heritage. As I mentioned to you, there are three active volcanoes in the world: Italy, in Etna, Pinatubo, and Philippines, and Yogyakarta. So why is a very active volcano in the world? Because they have a cycle of eruptions at least 3 or 4 years once. And in 2010, there's a biggest eruption in the world. I mean, sorry, in Merapi. So it's covering almost 15 kilometers from the top of the Merapi. And this has become influenced the living cultures around the mountains, and including our city, Yogyakarta, from since the old time. And this is the Javanese culture, or usually mentioned, is not a whole Java, but only the middle Java, and also the East Java, the West Java, which is where Jakarta and other cultures place or house is not. It's called Javanese culture. The Javanese culture usually refer to the Middle Java and East Java. Bali and Bali Island, the most famous tourist spot, is not Java Island, but next to us. So in the Middle Java and East Java, which is Javanese cultures born, there's a Mount Merapi here, and exactly on the Middle Java, just north around 30 kilometers of our city of Yogyakarta. So if we looking at the I cannot showing the video because if I connected it, then it stop. But at least this is eruptions every 3 or 4 years once. And this year we have eruptions in February and January. Is maybe influence or affected the 6 kilometer from the top. So it's not as danger as in 2010. But we have already looking at from when I was born how the lava can be seen from our house. So, and with this natural phenomenon, we have a really best stone materials for the architecture. So even until now, the best stone in Java actually coming from this Mount Merapi. So this is show the artifact or archaeological artifact that we found is temples or stone culture architecture, stone temples. So if you have been to Indonesia, maybe the temple of Borobudurs and also temple of Prambanan, which is Hindus, Borobudur is Buddhist, is two of the UNESCO the World Cultural Heritage. So this is the Prambanan temples, and this is the Borobudur temples, one of the biggest stupa in the staging's architecture, with the philosophical, of course, showing the Buddhist path. And we still have many small, it's called Chandi or temples around the Merapi, Mount Merapi. So one of the cultural landscape here, also if you're going into the hilly area around the Borobudur, and now it's become one of the strategic place for our government to develop this Borobudur area, and one of the cultural landscape heritage which can be connected between the natures and the temples itself. So this is the first I have to mention of the Yogyakarta setting, the first layer of the old culture connected, the living culture and the natural sources or Mount Merapi in this case. The second layer, because of the Mount Merapi in the old time, has the eruptions frequently, and maybe one of them have a cycle as a biggest eruption, and this is become one of the scenario or become of the what is called analytic reasons why then the kingdom in the classical Yogyakarta moved to East Java. One of the reasons is understood as maybe the big eruption make people in that time is very afraid, and they move the kingdom into the East Java, and they maybe more than 8 to 10 centuries, and then after 10 centuries they back again to Yogyakarta in the same place of the old classical Yogyakarta, which is Candi or with its temple, coming to the we call inland Java, and creating many cities like Kota Gede, Surakarta, and the latest or the newest kingdom after the classical time is our city of Yogyakarta. So our city of Yogyakarta actually connected to the Mount Merapi, but have a distance, quite distance. Maybe is also to understand the effect of the eruptions. So about 30 to 40 kilometers, but still flanking between or located between two rivers, which believe as a natural drainage system on this. So our first king, Sultan, is called Sultan first, was built um, inside of the forest actually, because maybe the nature and the time is, but maybe the clear sky, they still put it the Mount Merapi as an orientation of the city or the palace itself. So we understand that the king developed a city with element of the city connected to the north, the Mount Merapi, and connected to the South Sea. And this axis is called imaginary axis. What is imaginary axis? And then maybe it's developed into the small axis, philosophical axis, is juxtapose of the position of the king or sultan. They pretend to be a half god. King, with it's in a Spiro Costa book, it's called Devaraja concept. And in the case of Yogyakarta, the sultan tried to link his power into the natural power, which is a Mount Merapi. I think is visible when this erupted, and also to the south, to the supernatural power that is the god of South Sea. And this convinced to the people that Sultan has connection to the power of nature and power of supernatural. That is made also by the evidence that the palace of the place of Sultan connected to the Mount Merapi and is believed as a natural power, and the king connected to the supernatural power in the South Sea. And we understood that although the Kraton from the old classical Yogyakarta kingdom into the new one in Yogyakarta palace has already influenced by the Islamic religions. So, but we also understand that they cannot leave the old belief. It's called Hinduism, animism and Hinduism, who believe on a natural power like Mount, and also the Hindu on the goddess of the South Sea. So the imaginary axis make there are three space of God, paradise in Mount, and human space in the city of Yogyakarta in a palace where the palace is built, and also the earth space or the best spirit is on a goddess sea in South Sea of Yogyakarta. So this is the link of this imaginary access. But imaginary access have been developed physically in the city by making the two landmark. It's called Panggung Krapya, the stage-like buildings, and the Tugu Palputia, the tower of city, white tower, connected the again palace, because they have a concept of the philosophical concept. If you studied as a baby born coming from the Panggung Krapya, from where we come, and going into Kraton is a step of the people who matures and do marriage, but still we have going into the goals, the place that we have to have a best living purpose. So this has become a street and also buildings connected to the philosophical. And if you can see the building as an artifact of to prove that there is a axis there, is the white pearl and also actually the original is almost double of this today's tower because of the earthquake. Then is ruined and is built more smaller. And this is nowadays context of the white towers connected the Sultan Palace and also connected to the south part is stage-like building. So this is the access has become the main road. It's like Champs-Élysées in Paris. So people coming this streets, and along with the access, there's various Chinatown building, colonial building, office in the time, and now it's become commercial area. It's become a corridor of commercial area in north part of the palace. So in the old time, this palace, this axis is quite influenced by the Dutch and also Chinese shop house, and but commercialization here is still there. So even the facade have been subject to the place of the what is called the advertisement. So, but thank God today we try to make better this layer, this street access, and most of us understand that people coming from the old time to today's because this is specific backbone of the city structure. So even my student usually together with me to sketches Malioboro, and this is in the pandemic time. Malioboro is become well quite empty, but still nice to walk here. This is the city access, and but the city access actually also cannot be we have to relate the city access with the city pattern, city element. We call Kraton is palace and Javanese urban element. And actually, because we declare that the Yogyakarta city is the newest or the latest of the kingdom or the palace along the history of Javanese cities before. So they have a more perfect, pattern, because the pattern of element of the city of Java usually there are four: the palace itself, and then the square is called alun-alun, the mosque because there's an Islamic element there, and market. So the four is the four elements, and we can found in many city in Java, especially Java, Middle Java and East Java. But every time they have a new palace, they put a new concept, especially Yogyakarta. They have four, but in city before Yogyakarta is Surakarta, they add another square in the short part, and we copy, but we add the axis. So this is the concept: four element plus every time they build a new city. So this is my dissertation, which is showing how the evolution of the concept of the four elements began four element plus the new square, and then in Yogyakarta they have a four element plus new square, and the south plus the imaginary axis or the what is called the philosophical axis. And this is also we understand that there is orientation of the city toward Qibla, Mecca of mosque. So this is just example of how the square is very nice in the old banyan trees, and also we have the different palace style in different cities, including Yogyakarta, and even the mosque. I believe, I myself believe that maybe our Islam influence is not coming from Arabic country, but from the Muslim from China who trade with us in the old time. So why the mosque has a sort of like metamorph of or a transformation of the pagoda mosque in the uh, old city of um, Java North Coast area. So this is the most the third element, and then the market, because this is always latest ideas of commercial place. The designer also, the architect is not only Javanese people, but mostly of colonial or Dutch architects who really love in Indonesia. And this, I think, two example of two cities. The market is designed by very famous Dutch architects, and the time is Karsten. Yeah. So we then this layer of the pattern of the city is coming into um, um, defense system after they built. The Sultan have a defense system with the border, making the border, but the border is not as a fortification. It's not the fort physically like fort, but the system defense system is by building a community. It's called Pato Negoro, or I call the country uh, border pile. And country border pile actually literally means country border is a settlement. It's not a fortification, but settlement developed around a mosque led by a religious leader appointed by the Sultan, and there are four in the outside of the city. So like this, so they have a mosque, they have a community, and become a system different. If there is an enemy coming to the city, they have the first get contact with the disturbance of or infiltration of other people coming to the palace. So the location is outside of the city, even nowadays, still in the outside. And this is the system defense by using the community. But instead of the family of the Sultan, they also create the system defense by developing a, it's called Nobel Residence. And I wondered that this is seem like a castle town. So the system defense is according to a place for Nobel and its followers who support the king. So what kind of the Nobel residence setting is? This layer is very interesting because the Nobel residence has become an urban primary unit, a house that attract people to come, especially as first setting is in a rural area, and become because of people coming in the and work in this Nobel residence and become urbanized, as I call a starting point to develop its surrounding into urban. And in the feudal time, of course, it is a lot of land houses, lot open space, and having a good trees and many of traditional community inside and in the surrounding of the Nobel residence. What kind of the position of the, so if we understand in the first layer, there is a four element: palace, square, mosque, and market. The red one is Nobel residence. You can see how scattered how the distribution is almost outside of the uh, um, city fortification itself. So meaning that in the old time, the noble residents have the king give the land to the noble outside of the fort, and then they decide to make a walled house and in the middle of this land, and they create access to this house, and the followers coming into two parts outside of the land. It's given to noble, and inside of the wall. So, and because this scatters with the biggest land, it's become a defense system, and this is also understood by every position of the noble residence. And if we just not put it the street there, it's only noble resident, and they develop with the followers. So we can understand that the Indonesian, I mean Javanese city is not depend on only on the skeleton, but it depends on the how the community make or create a defense system. And we understood from the noble name, for example, nearby the fortification, palace fortification, they have a military commander. It's called Komandaman. It's like commander, Komandaman. And then a bit far from the fortification, they have a Jogonegoro. It's literally mean country guard. And the outset of the system of the noble residence place is called Notoyudan War Commander, meaning that although as a primary urban units, they also create a system defense added to the file community portal called Patok Negoro in previous explanation. So this is very interesting because the architecture and of the noble residence is have a quite a specific morphology. They have access to the residence of the nobles, and the gates has become the identity. And we have many gates, and after we go inside, we have many residence houses inside still until now, and we have many various of the gates here. So this is the noble residence, and then we making more influenced by the Dutch colonial time, and there are train stations because we know that the state train station has become in Asia. This link to Yogyakarta is number 2 after India. So even Japan, we have 10 years earlier than Japan in constructed the railway system. So Yogyakarta, one of the first step of the Dutch railway system here. So they have a quite like in Austria, Paris, there's Südbahnhof. There's in Paris also west, north, and also east and station. So here also have a 4 direction of the station actually. So Dutch colonial buildings also very interesting because after we have city develop, Dutch colonial as a symbol of power, first the Dutch and their business in Yogyakarta, especially after they create sugar factories, bank, post office, church, school, and so on. So this is the modern building era of the colonial Dutch, because there is an industrial revolution of European coming into this in Indonesia, And this is just a research on many of our. And what is very interesting, also garden city concept. I just realized that there is a first generation of garden city outside of the European country and America. It's only in Asia, only in the 2 or 4 countries. One is Israel, as I know, and Hong Kong, Japan, and Indonesia. We have a 4 garden city, and the first generation is built in 1988 to 1930. So I think Kota Baru as a garden city in Yogyakarta is actually built in 1925. So after in Jakarta, there's one garden city, and Semarang in another city of Java, and also all in Java, of course. Here, and the history is same. The garden city of Kota Baru actually coming from Dutch developed sugar factories, and as I know that the sugar factory in Indonesia at the time is the second big production after Cuba. So you can imagine that our sugar factories is scattered in Java, especially, and it's need to have many Dutch worker and manager housing, and one of them in Kota Baru as a concept of the modern city at the time, developed by Ebenezer Howard. So this is just an example of how we understood the Kota Baru Garden City as the Central Park, has the avenue, and so on. So I think I'm stuck to the layer of here, because they're a modern layer, and maybe can be understood from the next 2 presentations next week. But at least this is the idea of layer of the heritage of the Yogyakarta city. So gracia mille, dankeschön. Terima kasih.
Thank you very much, Professor Ikaputra. Thank you very much for your presentation lecture on the layers of Yogyakarta.
Yeah.
I have to tell you something, because I was born in the south of Italy, in Naples,
Yeah.
and we have also a big volcano, but not very active. It's fortunate for us, and this natural situation with the central axis and the development of the city around this axis, the site of the mountain, and the connection with idea of a religion or the house of gods, it's very familiar, very familiar for me. For me, and it is a sort of a memory of my city. Thank you very much also for this. But I want to underline that there are many interesting aspects, elements for our project. Probably my students have been able to see that the garden city that you show us, Kota Baru, is just nearby our project area. And so the first question for you, is this urban model a possible answer for the redevelopment of the city of Yogyakarta, or it is only an historic pattern without with no more future?
Yeah, it's very difficult question for me. But at least there are 2 things, because this is the heritage layer, and mostly explained in the concept of more on the power ingrained in the time, including the Dutch colonial. But the next discussion will be next week on it's on more on the layer of community living. It's called settlement or urban settlement. So if I have to uh, give the answer, there are two things. I think until now, even me, I'm really amazed with the Kota Baru or Garden City concept. As a concept is very nice because have a good greenery, a good system, and a good connection using the next to the railway system. But if you're looking at the luxurious, what is called luxurious land or lot occupied by a single family, we have to think about the um, life of a whole community we just cannot afford with this kind of the size of land. But this concept should be combining with the ideas of how people can afford of the land size and the minimum requirement, but still can accommodate the culture of people currently. And I believe that you can have ideas or explanation on the next is called kampung or urban settlement or compound in English maybe, and also how living cultures and maybe in the two weeks to go in Indonesia, how people with the limited place can also designing their own kitchen garden, for example, their own a sharing place for gathering, children playing, and even for religious purpose in a community every day. So mixing atau combining the garden city as a big concept of the nice um, living place, and also the limitation of a community which can develop the affordability of the housing that you maybe can develop, become a quite challenge for us to hear from you. I mean, this is as I say, is a quite difficult question, but I hope that my answer can give more understanding. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes, I have one because I didn't understand something that Professor said about the security of the city of Yogyakarta.
Yeah.
And I was curious about, so you said that there's a plan about, I don't know what to say. I don't remember the typical, the name, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you said that it's not a fortification, but it's something related to security.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's an element that are elements because are more than one, but so it's not a fortification. That's it.
Yeah, Martina, thank you for reminding me to explain more than what I presented. I think maybe this is a kind of quote unquote the difference between the Western ideas or concept and the Eastern concept. So meaning that when of course our city have fortification physically, like in the medieval city in European countries, we have. It's called palace fortification. But then this physical things is not guarantee that we will have a peaceful system defense. So the king developed what they call a social system of defense. So they use community to protect the kingdom. So they not create the fences or fortification, but they create a place for community to live, and they can either it can both become spectacles atau can be monitor every things outside of the cities and inform to the king, but in the same time the community also strengthen the tightness between the community and the king. So so this is also the same in a new settlement or the contemporary settlement or open settlement. If you have a good neighbor, you will save. If you have a bad neighbor or a bad connection relation with your neighbors, well, it's become quote unquote problems, and then because you have a conflict. But if you get a good connection with your neighbors, so your house, if you want to leave your house without anyone inside, you just asking next doors, can I ask you to keep my house, and I will going to Jakarta for 3 days, and they will happy to do that, and meaning that in a social concept is called social capital. The asset of the network connection or community connection is become important than the physical borders. So I hope, Martina, you understand this one, and it's not
Yes.
only in the yeah.
Yes, thank you. I understood. I didn't understand lately the relation between the protection and the people involved with this. But now,
Right.
thank you. It's more clear.
Yeah, I think in Italy still have also social capital on that,
Yeah,
and
since
I believe also.
it happens. Yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
gracias.
I have many questions for our guest, but the first one is about the characteristics of public space today in the urban life in Yogyakarta. I mean, we are used to think to traditional Western models like, for instance, square. Is it a possible? It's also a possible system for the actual urban life in Yogyakarta. It is, how can I say, a possible public space, not only a representative space. You show us something about the temple, the two big squares,
Yeah.
but they are looking more like representatives spaces as real urban spaces. It is connected to the, please.
Yeah. Gianluca, thank you for your questions, and I think I wonder that maybe a more comprehensive explanation also after the lectures, but at least I will explain to you there are still I'm remember when I was in Rome, and I enjoy very much the LA of the urban space, and for certainly they have a big space plaza or piazza, and this one is not similar for physical or aesthetical thing, but this concept also happened in the urban settlement in Yogyakarta. So they have a small LA and have sharing activities of the family there. They have a chatting place there. they have a playground on a small alley street, but fortunately they have a common space, although it's not as big as city square, but at least it's become a life of people in contemporary, but with traditional culture. And of course, the difference this also happen when you design a real estate, a new real estate. But some of the low cost housing, in the first time they create with the really pattern or formal pattern, but because they have to develop their own additional rooms and etc., then it's become again the room that is not enough in a low cost housing model. It can be extended to the streets and then become again traditional housing or settlement in the city. They create a new shared streets in a formal design by nowadays architect for affordable for the low cost housing. But of course, for the high income, they are not problem because they have enough space for their own individual lots. A big, I mean, quite enough space for inside for the family. So it's not very often the street is create some like in rooms. There are alleys that people can say hello in a narrow street, but can also have a small cafe and a small house. And I think have a similarity like that. But maybe for specifically, we also develop the committee also develop some others ideas. For example, the street that they use for their own individual family have been tolerated by the other families. For example, I mean, one family trying the clothes in front of the other house doors. They already understood that, yeah, it's okay because they don't have any place for drying the clothes after the washing. So this kind of livable patience, I call, or livable alleys, it's happened in our contemporary public space, either linear form or square form. I think this is my explanation, Deluca, and I hope that I will ask the next lecture to add your question so that we can have more ideas on how the public space in Yogyakarta city.
Thank you very much.
Hello, I would like to ask. You were talking about the protection and the system, and basic question. So yeah. Who are you protecting from actually? What are the potential dangers? Yeah. If you understand.
Yeah, this is a good question. Historically, because I'm talking about the historical layer. First, it's protect to other kingdom, because Yogyakarta has built, the city of Yogyakarta was built because of the conflict between the family of kingdom of the former sultan in other cities. So, but by the intervention of the Dutch colonial or Dutch government, then they can reduce the conflict, but by sort of like treaty to make division between the old other cities kingdom into two, and one of them is Yogyakarta. So when Yogyakarta developed, then they're still in conflict with the next king. So that why they have to protect themselves from other possible quote unquote enemy, which can be a other kingdom in other cities. So like I don't know exactly like the castle town, they have a conflict with other, but the interesting thing is that they create not only physical defense but also community defense, because they hope that they can reduce the conflict not by the physical uh, fighting or something like that, but they can just making like compromising using the people and people. So as you Mr. Svoboda asking me who for protect what, I mean protect the kingdom, of course, and from whom is from other kingdom family conflict or war or military or something like that. Yeah, this is the my explanation. Hopefully you understand on that. But of course, the most possible enemy is other city kingdom.
Thank you very much. Yes, it was helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. The ideas is although the system of kingdom is not happened today, but the ideas of there are two system of defense. One is using the physical fences. The second one is using the community relation. That was the ideas that I think still continue till today.
I have a question about
Please.
public spaces, referring to squares and spaces like that. I've noticed that many houses have a private porch in front of the house. Is that a possibility to think about some public porches, for example, in some square, or it's something strange or not so diffuse in Indonesian urbanistic style?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So about the theme of porches and for commercial activities, is that this tradition or not?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Andrea, and I think it's very interesting. As correct me, I'm wrong. Porches it means like in our concept is called terrace. It's like a space in front of the house, right? Is it correct? Porch.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. This is very interesting. Even until now, the porches like that is always become the sort of like characteristic of, it's not only for the high, medium, high income house, but also for low income house. Why? The porches actually has become a quote unquote like buffer between the public areas in a small and densely areas to quote unquote protects people looking at the inside of the house. So they just stop and asking, oh, how are you? And they create a porches with a nice sitting area, semi outdoor, all those small rooms or porches, and they can entertain their neighbor guests in the porches. Although this is also a nice consideration, because porches is quite suitable for tropical countries, even if they have rooms for entertaining the guests, but porches is an ideal place or comfort place to having people or entertaining guests in this place. So I'm very sure porches in Indonesian or Yogyakarta's community form is quite a very quite interesting to be understood. I will ask my friends to also showing some of the porches Yogyakarta versions. Hopefully, Andreas, you can have ideas when you looking at this example next weeks. Yeah. Thank you to make me understand what your concern.
Thank you for explanation. Thank you.
I have a question. Good morning.
Morning.
Basically, I wanted to know if how the citizen of Jakarta perceive the innovation in contrast with the tradition of your culture, how they perceive the innovation of the construction in the city.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, your name is?
Ilaria.
Up?
My name is Ilaria.
Ilaria.
Yes.
Thank you, Ilaria. Well, it's very interesting to explain you of our city. Our city actually have many predicates. It's cultural city because we have a culturally embedded in our city. The second one is called the education city. So the biggest university in Indonesia and the first national university in Indonesia is actually in our city. It's my university. Universitas Gadjah Mada is the first and the biggest faculties member, and also we call study programs more than 200, but maybe still small comparing with maybe European university, it's the oldest than our university. And by these ideas in our city, it's not only our university, but there are more than maybe around 100 university in the level of university. So in the other ideas, the level of education in junior high school, senior high school is also in comparing with other cities is considerably higher, so that innovations, knowledge-based research, and also new things always welcome and developed by us. And even we have also art schools, also one of many artists coming from the three big cities, Bali, Bandung, and Yogyakarta, is usually based on the creativity or innovation, is if your word like that. So they will welcome the innovation of many ideas, including architecture. The problem is they also have a critical thinking, because innovation is okay, but is there also contextual with our life, with our future, with our community? So innovation is not taboo, but they will also try to looking at on the other side, which is how the harmony with the existing. So Ilaris, I think this one is. I hope that one of the creative ideas coming from our city, even in the pandemic, one of our university developed the system of what is called detection of have a positive COVID or not in the very fast way is from our university. It's called Genos. So you only breathe in the some sort of like balloon, and within 2 hours, 2 minutes, we can understand that you are positive because we use IEA, intelligent artificials, and now is already put it in station and so on, and feed it the model of the using the PCR. So we use the very innovative way. So I hope that innovation in architecture and urban design will be welcome, I think, in from by our community, of course, and we wait for your ideas.
Thank you very much.
Nariman, sorry, I have another question for Ikaputra. Very quick. Is it possible?
Please, I have time.
Okay. Is it possible to look at the Merapi volcano from the city itself? Yep. I mean, is the volcano a physical element in the landscape and not only religious or the ideological element?
Yeah. Well, I think in the old time there were more clear cloud comparing with today, so that they make the mountain as a focal point. But today's, although pollution maybe is worse rather than old time, we can see when the clear cloud, the Merapi Mount. So even until now, if I just get out in the morning and I'm trying to walking around for my exercise, so I can see the Mount Merapi still in my city from my house. So it still clearly can be see the Merapi. Very nice. So if there is the characteristics of Merapi, actually is not the eruption is not like the atomic bomb, but it's called hot cloud. It's coming like melting from the peak of the mount, so that you can see like a stream of light at night. So it's also enjoyable actually if there's no effect on people. So we can still have a nice night view for Merapi small eruption actually. So still can be seen even from the side that we will develop. If you can create some of towers, small tower for 2-story building, maybe we have to check. But at least as I know, I think we can still see Merapi.
Thank you very much.
Good morning. I have one more question. My question was about what is the relationship between Yogyakarta's people and water, because I noticed that also the Sultan Palace has a pool and also there is a river, so I was curious about that.
Well, yes, this is I'm sorry cannot explain very good on this matter, the Yogyakarta and water. Of course, in the cosmological thing, they connect to the South Sea, but in the city itself, beside two rivers, we have 7 rivers that connected to the city as landscape, but we also trying to one of my friends also trying to connect the water and especially river to the city. So there is some artificial river also, which is also very important, developed by one of the king that's connected across the 7 rivers to give irrigations in the north part. But I think there is a, connection, especially for the city in the old time, but for community nowadays, people also living in a settlement, especially urban settlement, and the rivers. So rivers is one of the good place for both making a good scenery, but in the same time can be quote unquote dirty scenery because they are not care about the garbage and so on. So this is becomes dilemmatis. Marciori, yeah.
Okay,
And
thank you.
maybe the good things that we are also should has a good green settlement ideas concept. If you make your what is called the rainwater coming into the city drainage, it's become influence the capacity of the drainage system in the city. So we sometimes now promoted the what we call a zero runoff, which can be put it into our own settlement, making small pond or even bioforests for every houses, so that the burden of the rainwater to drainage system is reduced. So this is also good for ideas to create a green settlement. I think you are right. Water is become very important to us.
Thank you very much.
Morning. I have a question.
Yes,
If it's possible. I'd like to ask how the pandemic and the climate change has influenced the perception of cities and space, and also if the pandemic has showed some latent problems from a social and an architectural point of view. Thank you.
Wow. This is one also difficult question because I think everybody have a challenge to answer not only in Yogyakarta but a whole world. But at least there are 2 things that we can understand from my city. The first is nowadays urban settlement, especially community in the urban area and village area, they develop again in the first 3 months of the pandemic. They create of what I already explained is called a community defense system for the COVID, not only for enemy but for COVID. They create, for example, if we have a village or called kampung or a house complex, if in a non-pandemic periods times they have access more than say like 4 access from north, from south, from east and west. But in the pandemic, they only open one, and there is a community guard, and they create sort of like question of people who come to the complex of housing or village, and they have to the report, And if suspect the pandemic, there are two things. They have to help them to the city hospital, or they have bring it into house that isolated in that one, and we give the food and so on. So this is a community relation. But when we looking at the architecture, house is become more modest, or more what is called more dressing up, comparing it before, because they are a whole time at the house, at home. And if you're going into the public space, like as I show you to the Malioboro, or in the city axis, the famous street corridor in the city, the community also making their own way to, for example, make mark that if you have two seats, you have only use one seat, because it will be create a social distance if we put the mark not seated here. So this one, and even until now they create how people behave, as we call in architecture, we call three space. We avoid closed space with air condition. We avoid contact space. So because although you only have two, but if making you in a not social distance, then they avoid. For example, the corridor of our city, they have for walkable, or for people, for pedestrian, they have direction: go to south in the left part, go to the north in the right part. This is for the avoiding the social contact. But for crowded space, they also have some others ideas for public space. So this is maybe making us aware of space outside of the house and inside of the house as well. So this is what I know. But of course, your question may be difficult for us, because I mean difficult for everybody in the world, because we now trying to have a good ideal architecture concept, as well as the urban space conceptual to anticipate the pandemic like nowadays. Yeah. Sorry for not going not good answer, because this is considered difficult question, Cruci or Maria.
You're welcome. Thank you.